Today's HubCast guest started her career as a clinical psychologist, but after experiencing burnout, she decided to change her career and move to the UK. Valeria has also worked in film and TV as well as property investment, and she now designs interiors for serviced accommodation and HMOs. I can't wait for you to hear all about this one. Welcome to the HubCast, brought to you by the Interior Designers Hub, where we help and support interior designers to get trained, get into the industry, and to grow wildly successful businesses. If you want to work in the field you love, create the lifestyle you desire, and make the money you truly deserve, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Kate Hatherall. Let's get into it. I am so excited because today on the HubCast we've got Valeria Romano from Home Poise. Hi Valeria, welcome.
Hi Kate, welcome to you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, we're really pleased to have you here today and to hear all about your journey into interior design. So tell us a little bit about your business. Where are you located and what type of design do you do?
So I'm geographically based in Bournemouth area in the south coast, which is a lovely place. Up to last year, I was located in Cambridgeshire, though, and my business is actually not location related because I do it online.
Okay, so it's an online service that you provide. And is it residential work that you do, commercial, or different things?
So in actual fact, that is a mixture because I do service accommodation as well as what's called HMOs, and I'll explain in a second. So it's a mixture because service accommodation and HMO is classified as commercial, but it's actually residential properties because they are properties where people do live in.
And for people that don't know what HMO stands for?
It stands for home or multiple occupation, and it's basically a house share.
A house share. So we're talking about things like maybe student accommodation, that sort of thing?
Yes, professional house shares where you actually renting a room and then you have the shared accommodation for sitting room, lounge, kitchen, and so on.
Amazing. So do you work on a lot of kind of renovation projects then?
I do a lot of renovation projects, which go from conversions of houses to smaller spruce ups where investors, because I'm dealing with investors, would ask me what they need to do and how they need to work. Mm-hmm. So my interior design is quite niche.
It is, yeah, absolutely. And as we all know, a niche is a really good thing to have. So obviously we're here to learn about your journey into interior design. Have you always been an interior designer?
No.
No, okay. What did you do before?
I started off as a clinical psychologist.
Oh, wow.
So I graduated, I actually have a doctorate and I worked for 4.5 years as a clinical psychologist. Then I totally burnt out and I took a second degree course. I moved to England by then, took a second degree course in computer animation and visualization. And then I slowly transitioned. I worked in the film industry for 13 years. And then I slowly transitioned from that to interior design and then to become myself a property investor. And now the two things go well together because obviously when I do interior design for an investor, I know their mindset, which is completely different from a residential renovator mindset. And therefore, I give that kind of reassurance that what I do is going to resonate with what they need.
And that makes sense, totally.
I wasn't always an interior designer. The transition happened when I became a little bit disillusioned with the film and television's world. Very stressful environment. Very creative, but very stressful. Obviously, in the meantime, I had done my own renovation projects because I have a few buy-to-lets. And in the meantime, I realized that I could make a living almost out of it. Obviously, I didn't drop the film industry dead. I made a I tapered because I was freelancing in films. So it was easy for me to take a fewer contracts and then taper that off and increase my design and renovations business. So it wasn't shocking. It wasn't a super fast transition. It took me about a year, I also did a few interior design courses online for investors. So again, a very niched, and just to help them, if they didn't want to hire me, then they could learn to do it themselves.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. And obviously, thinking back to kind of the original career, if you like, the clinical psychology, that's really quite different to interior design, yeah?
It does, but it actually plays a great deal. So
Okay.
both my careers actually have led quite nicely into what I do today, because obviously when we look at a space, we need to understand what the space feels like.
Yes.
When you work on very specialized projects like projects for accommodation for certain type of people, like there is a whole market of accommodation, for example, for women who have been abused. So they've suffered home abuse and therefore they need a shelter. There are shelters that I work with, investors who deal with shelters for people who suffer mental illness. So again, the environment needs to be a certain way. And I'm talking details about, like, don't have ropes, for example, hanging, because these people might be prone to suicide. And therefore there needs to be attention to what we actually set up as fixture and fittings. So a lot of my psychology background is helping. Even for residential renovations, if you aim at a family, you want the place to feel a certain way. If you aim at young professionals, you want the place to feel a different way. So there is always some psychology in it. And obviously, as you well teach, the psychology of colors, the vibe of a place, and the feel that you get as soon as you get into place. So that's all to do with psychology and optical illusion, obviously, which is part of psychology. And then my experience in film industry taught me all about CAD design. So I work on my own CAD design, SketchUp, Floor Planner, which is the easiest one that I can teach people to use because it's less techy, less daunting for the layman. And that comes from film industry. And obviously there is all the fact that I know how to do the photography because I work in film. So when I design a space and I lay out a vignette, for example, I know exactly what it want to look in the photography. I know exactly how it can be framed for it to look really appealing.
So it's all of those kind of composition rules and all of that sort of stuff that I guess after a while, you just kind of naturally absorb that, and you can just look at it and go, that's not right.
Definitely. And you don't need to be trained in things like this. You can, some people have a flair for it, like a natural flair for it. But obviously, I had a flair because I'm a very artistic person. Most people who do interior design are very artistic people. But I think the training in film industry taught me just to take that a little bit further, just a step further, so that it becomes easy to think from the other point of view as well.
So I totally get how your previous careers have helped you in what you do. And I can really see that relevance between the psychology, between obviously the CAD design and the visualization, totally get that. But looking at it the other way around, have you always been passionate about interior design? Or again, was that something that evolved? I mean, did you used to, play with dolls' houses when you were a kid and looking at the wallpaper that was in there? Or was that something that came to you a bit later?
So when I was a teenager, my father used to do renovations. So my father, as I always say, used to buy bad houses for the family and then do them up. It wasn't an investor. We didn't have a portfolio in the family, but my dad had a vision. And so from the age of about 7, I've been exposed to refurbishment and building sites.
Right.
My photo, the youngest picture I have is of me, age 7, with a furry coat, red coat with a fur. It's winter. Behind me, there is a building site, which is the house that my dad built from scratch in the countryside house. And the picture is there only because it was snowing. And in Sicily, where I'm from, rarely snows. So we had a snowman, my brother and I. So I've always been exposed to that kind of environment. And as I grew up, my dad used to involve me in the design part of things. I used to choose my own wallpaper. I used to choose my own tiles for my own bathroom. So there is a certain inclination and nature and nurture. But, what came first, I don't know. I know that I enjoyed it then. And therefore, when I was looking to do something and I was already doing investments and I was doing my own refurbishments, it came natural to think of, wait a second, I can actually offer this as a service.
Amazing. And that kind, sorry, that kind of process from, transitioning from the old careers into the new, were there any fears or worries that you had about doing that? Like whether you were good enough, whether you would be able to make it work? What were the sort of things that worried you or might have held you back?
So obviously there is always the imposter syndrome that we talk about in your course as well. There is always a fear that you're not going to earn enough. And therefore, yes, a lot of doubts, and hence a gradual transition rather than, I break free from film industry and I start this, because you need to always test the water in a way. You need to understand because we dream of doing different things in our life, but when we are in the things we do, we don't feel the same way we thought we'd feel. Thinking of doing it. So I think it's always a matter of testing the water for not only to understand how good you are and whether your services are received well, but also whether you do like it or not. Because maybe you don't. Maybe you love doing your own refurbishments, but dealing with other people ones, maybe that's a no for you. And therefore then perhaps you can think of something else you could do with that skill and with that knowledge. And I have to say, even today, sometimes I doubt myself. And I think that imposter syndrome never goes away. It's something that's always lurking there, and is how we deal with it that matters.
Yeah.
Not that it's there or not.
I completely agree. And I actually think, and I was saying this to another designer I was talking to the other day, in a way, there's something actually quite nice about that. It's almost like a humble approach to it, which to me is the opposite of arrogance. And I actually think it's a good thing.
I think so. It's a good thing. I totally agree with you. And it's a good thing also because it keeps us in check.
Yes.
It's us not wanting to stop learning things, not wanting to research things, not wanting to really, think we are the best or we achieved the most and we have nothing else to learn, because we don't know what we don't know at every stage of our lives. And therefore, that reality check needs to be there. So like you, I welcome imposter syndrome and I welcome the doubts, because the doubts are what moves us forward and makes us better.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. And I think, that's a really healthy and positive way to look at what actually is a very natural and normal thing. And I don't think I've ever spoken to an interior designer that doesn't feel like that they don't have some element of imposter syndrome, no matter what stage or how experienced they are. Most people experience this and most people feel it's quite a normal thing. But to harness that and to look at it as a positive thing, I think is really good.
Absolutely.
So, thinking back about obviously your career journey, do you wish that you'd gone into it younger? Because obviously there was that interest for you when you were younger, whether that was through nurture or nature. But do you wish that maybe you hadn't done the clinical psychology, or that you'd got into this at an earlier stage in life, or has it just arrived at the right time for you?
So I'm of the opinion that we shouldn't live by regrets, and that things happen for a reason. And the fact that where I am at now, I've had different experiences in life and I've experienced different careers and I've learned different skills. It's all being helpful now. But I have to say, I often think of the day in which I was many years ago, probably 2003, 2004, can't quite remember, but very early in my life in the UK, where I had the option to either take a job for University College London or taking a job at Designers Guild.
Right.
I had an offer on the table from each, and I was really torn what to do, which road to take. And I remember calling my dad. My dad at the time was still alive, and I remember calling him, saying to him, I have this opportunity and this opportunity. I was literally outside Designers Guilds in London. And I said to him, I have this opportunity and that opportunity. What shall I take? And my dad, being an academic himself, says to me, well, the work at university is more prestigious. And I'm thinking, really? I'm thinking, really? I was there looking at those beautiful fabrics, in the fields, and I was like, why didn't I follow my gut? Why didn't I follow my instinct? And, I could see it as a regret. I could see it as I could have probably become something different, totally different then, but then I wouldn't be where I am because, time travel, in which I know one thing, the whole progression of events will change.
It's like the whole sliding doors thing with, how my life could have been different if I'd have taken that path, but we'll never know, will we?
Totally. So yes, perhaps I could have done it earlier. Yes, perhaps I could have been in a different place today, but I am happy where I am. So I don't have regrets. I just sometimes stop and think, I wonder if I've taken that sliding door, what would have happened then?
Yeah, absolutely.
Would I be?
And if you could go back and give your younger self some advice, or if you could advise somebody that's thinking, oh, I'd love to be an interior designer, what would your advice to them be?
Follow your passions. That would be my advice, and that would be my advice to my younger self. But the second advice would be surround yourself with the people who can help you with your passion. So get in the right groups, get in the right support groups, have that, because I am of the opinion that the environment shapes us, and it shapes our brain and our way of thinking. And being in the right place with the right people, it's priceless. Being in your group in Hub Insiders is priceless. I am not constant with it. I see that there are a lot of people who constantly post. They are very, and I'm not, because I am busy and I have to cut things here and there and be very careful how I invest my energy. But I love being in that Hub Insiders group. I think it's the right group for somebody who want to test the water for whether they want to become an interior designer, because things come up, people put things up about the problems that I have with an interior design client, or what they've learned, or what they found, or a new show to go to. There is a lot going on in your group, and it's wonderful. And therefore, I think if we surround us with the environment we want to be in, A, we start becoming the person we want to be. B, we start understanding before we invest time, effort, and money whether it's the right environment for us, if it actually fulfills our needs and our wishes.
And I think there's real value, isn't there, in seeing other people doing it and seeing the problems that they come across, the way that they tackle them, and sharing knowledge and expertise. And that's something that you can't really learn that stuff, and having a community to tap into and just say, I don't know how to do this, or I'm stuck and I don't know where to go next. And having that available at your fingertips can be a really powerful thing.
And also because when we are in business, we run our own businesses, which an interior designer is what, the aspiration of an interior designer is. We are often lonely. As in, we work in at our desk, we meet our clients, but I meet a few investors or whatever. But as you said, we come across difficulties and we think it's just us. I think it's, oh my God, this I don't know how to handle it. But having that support group, and that in every area of our lives, is not just our professional area, but having that support group where we know we're not alone, and in a way we can preempt problems. Because if I read a post by someone who's going through something, and then I come across a situation 2 months later, a situation that reminds me of that post, that means I have preempted a problem. Potentially, I have actually avoided something negative just because I have somebody else's experience on my bag, on my belt. So that's super important.
Yeah, I totally agree. Valeria, that's been really interesting hearing about your journey and how you've gone from psychology into interior design, which at first feels like a very strange leap. And then when actually you connect the dots backwards, you see that it makes total sense and gives you all of the skills that you need. So thank you so much for coming along and sharing that today. Before you go, would you be happy to play a game of designer this or that?
Of course, that's the most fun bit.
Indeed, isn't it indeed? All right. So I'm going to put a minute on the clock and I'm going to give you some options. You have to choose one or the other. There's no middle ground. Are you ready?
I am.
Okay. Art Deco or pop art?
Ooh, Art Deco.
Changing rooms or interior design masters?
Interior design masters.
Carpet or hard flooring?
Oh, hard flooring all day long.
Victorian or Edwardian?
Victorian.
Glam or rustic?
Glam.
Plumping cushions or karate chopping cushions?
Karate chop every day.
Brand paints or colour matched paints?
Brand.
Leather or vegan?
Leather.
New or upcycled?
Upcycled.
Statement art or gallery wall?
Statement.
Handmade or factory made?
Handmade.
High gloss or matte finishes?
Matte.
Floating shelves or cabinets?
Floating shelves.
And we are out of time. That is our minute up. Valeria, thank you so much for playing designer this or that.
You're welcome. What was the last question, by the way?
I don't know. I've moved on. I've forgotten.
Okay.
Valeria, thank you so much for giving up your time today and coming to talk to us on the HubCast. And hopefully, people will be inspired by looking at your journey and knowing that they can also become interior designers as well. So thank you very much. Thank you for tuning into HubCast by the Interior Designers Hub. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please take a screenshot and share it to Facebook, Instagram, or your favourite social media channel. Make sure to tag me in at Interior Designers Hub and let me know what you enjoyed about this episode. I reply to each and every comment. I'd also like to offer you an incredible free gift, which is going to show you the exact roadmap that you need to take to become a wildly successful interior designer. It shares our secrets to business success. If you'd like to get your hands on that, head on over to interiordesignershub.co.uk/roadmap right now. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you next time.